And thank you, Dr. Califf, for being here today before the committee, because I certainly look forward to your questions. I just find it extremely concerning that under your watch, the FDA allowed the dangerous life-ending, because it does kill the baby, chemical abortion drugs to be ordered by consumers through mail or purchased in retail pharmacies without ever seeing a doctor in person. And I think that's the concern of many, many people. And in 2016, as you know, the risk evaluation and mitigation strategies were changed to eliminate the requirements that non-fatal adverse events would even have to be reported to FDA. So that's been 7 years that if the woman almost died, it was not reported. It was only reported if they were fatal cases. But the FDA that claimed this drug to be safe, in part based on the lack of reports of non-fatal adverse events, I agree with the Fifth Circuit's description of this deeply disturbing of really not looking at it, or the head-in-the-sand approach. But because of the lackluster approach to the safety, women seeking to use these drugs do so without the chance to be screened by an ultrasound for complications. But my main concern is an ectopic pregnancy, that if the baby is not positioned, which is deadly, or if she's further along than she's saying that she is. And, I'm truly grateful that the two federal courts have ruled that the FDA's most recent action failed to meet its legal obligation. So that's what the lawsuit is about, not judging if a drug is safe or unsafe, but that the FDA failed to meet its legal obligation to protect the safety of women and girls, and that also directly violated longstanding federal criminal laws that expressly prohibited the mailing and interstate shipping of abortion drugs. So the FDA, it's more of a legal issue of the procedure that happened than a safety issue of determining what drug is safe. But if the Supreme Court allows the lower court rulings to go into effect, will the FDA fully comply with the decision without delay and not attempt to flout the ruling under the guise of some kind of enforcement discretion? Would you apply immediately?
First, let me just one small thing that you said, not such a small thing, but I do want to offer a different viewpoint on the adverse event reporting. Adverse event reporting is required of all drugs, including this one. The reporting of adverse events is not being ignored in this case. It's required, just like with all drugs. What was done was to take away a separate form that's different from all the rest of the drugs. But with regard to your question, we're confident the law is on our side. We've appealed the district court's decision to the Supreme Court and have sought a stay pending that appeal. But FDA, as I've said already, does intend to comply with any court orders.
Okay, and in making its decision to eliminate the in-person dispensing requirement, none of the studies the FDA cited, which were largely conducted by abortion activists, studied the drugs under the new no-test teleabortion regime. Despite this, the FDA concluded that it was safe, but even the FDA admitted that this decision would increase emergency room visits for pregnant women taking the drugs. How comfortable is the FDA in recommending practices that have not yet been fully tested for safety?
Senator, since this is before the Supreme Court, I have to refer you to the briefings, the briefs that have been filed by the Justice Department on our behalf. This answers to these questions are discussed in detail there.
Okay, and how many studies has FDA considered that studied the effects of abortion drugs on young girls as required by law?
Again, I'd have to refer you to the briefs that have been filed by the Justice Department.
Okay, and the law also requires the FDA to respond to petitions within 180 days, but the FDA waited roughly 14 years and nearly 3 years to respond to citizens' petitions challenging FDA approval and deregulation of chemical abortion drugs. Can you speak to that?
I'll just say again, this is discussed in the briefs that are filed by the Justice Department on our behalf. It's would take a long answer.
Okay, my time is out.